Welcome everyone! A little while ago, I covered how to win a queen versus pawn endgame, in particular against the knight's pawn. If you missed that one, you can check out Endgame Essentials number 1. In that video, I mentioned that the technique I showed works against B, D, E and G pawns on the 7th rank. However, against the bishop's pawn, meaning the C and F pawns, it's a bit of a different story. And today I will be covering the bishop's pawn. I'll cover when it's possible to win, but also when the defender can draw. Let's just get it started. As you can see, in this case we have a pawn on f7 and the enemy king on d6. Unfortunately for black, the black king is very far away, and because of that, in this case it will be a draw. Let me show you why. Here it's white to move and he goes king to e7. White can still blunder here. If he goes f8 equals queen, then black wins because of check, king e6 and white drops the queen. Therefore, king to e7. And now black goes for the technique from the previous video. Queen e5 check, trying to force the king in front of the pawn. King d7, queen to f6. The king has to come back, otherwise the pawn drops. King e8, then queen e6 check. So now we've succeeded in forcing the king in front of the pawn. So again, we bring our own king over, king to c4. But now you'll see that black will run into a problem. White plays king to g7. Now the defending king is on the short side of the pawn. That's where the king wants to be, because it means that black can no longer win tempi anymore to bring his king closer. Just watch. Black tries queen e7, just pinning the pawn again. King to g8, threatening to queen. Black checks again. King to h8. Queen f6 check, forcing the king to defend the pawn again. King to g8. But watch what happens now. The queen again gives a check. And normally the king would occupy the square in front of the pawn, and then the attacking side would bring the king over. But white doesn't have to do that now. The king just goes king to h8. And that's the trick. Black thought he was threatening to win the pawn, but of course right here, that would result in stalemate. And if black doesn't take the pawn, he can only give checks, for example like this. And now of course he cannot bring his own king over. And if black doesn't check, then he will allow white to queen, and it's also a draw. So this is the first part of the queen versus bishop's pawn endgame. The main takeaway is that the attacking side must be able to bring the king over in order to win, otherwise the defender has this stalemate trick when the king is on the short side of the pawn. Now in coming videos I'll show how the queen under the right circumstances can win, among other things, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching Chess Student and take care.